Empty shelves are no longer just a nightmare from the past. They're the storm cloud hanging over America's dinner tables today. Experts warn that global food reserves for staples like wheat and rice are at their lowest in decades, while prices for basics have surged by more than 30% in just 1 year. If the system cracks again, what will vanish first? Will it be bread, the cheap comfort food that once fed entire families, or bottled water? The liquid gold no one can survive without? Can retirees living on Social Security really withstand another wave of shortages when even peanut butter, the cheapest protein on the shelf, is now climbing out of reach? These questions are not speculation. They are the countdown clock to a crisis already knocking at our doors. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And today, we uncover the 10 popular foods that will vanish first, so you'll know exactly what's at stake before it's too late. Number 1. Bread. Picture the grocery aisle as a battlefield, and bread is always the first casualty. When crisis whispers its warning, Americans don't line up for steak or shrimp. They make a beeline for bread. Within hours, the shelves are stripped bare, and what was once the cheapest, most ordinary food in the store turns into a desperate prize. This isn't paranoia, it's history repeating itself. During the early pandemic chaos, supermarkets across the country reported bread sales skyrocketing by nearly 200% in a matter of days, and many stores saw their stock vanish before noon. Why bread? Because it's the universal staple. Toast in the morning, sandwiches at lunch, a side with dinner. It's woven into daily life so tightly that losing it feels like losing part of the American table itself. The irony is cruel. The very food that represents stability and comfort is the first one to vanish when that stability is threatened. The problem doesn't stop at empty shelves. Bread spoils quickly, which means panic buyers don't just pick up one loaf, they grab 4, 6, or even 10, stuffing freezers like doomsday bunkers. Older Americans know the trick all too well, wrapping loaves in foil and shoving them into the freezer chest in the garage, hoping it buys them a few more weeks of peace. But that short-term stash can't stop the bigger storm. Once wheat shipments are delayed or flour production slows, bakeries across the nation simply cannot keep up. In recent years, wheat exports from key suppliers like Ukraine and Russia were throttled by war and sanctions, and global prices shot up by more than 50%. Add to that America's own droughts hammering the Midwest wheat belt, and suddenly a basic loaf is no longer guaranteed. It's not just a nuisance, it's a direct hit to working-class families and retirees living on Social Security checks already stretched thin. Imagine walking into Walmart or Aldi and seeing bread priced like steak with a sign limiting purchases to 1 per household. That's not science fiction. That's the logical next step when supply and demand break down. And while the wealthy can shrug and swap to expensive artisan loaves, low-income households don't have that luxury. Bread is the great equalizer, the one cheap filler that keeps hunger at bay. When it disappears, the consequences ripple fast. Food banks report demand spikes immediately, schools struggle to provide meals, and families turn to cheaper, less nutritious substitutes that fuel long-term health problems. The disappearance of bread doesn't just starve stomachs, it starves communities of stability. It becomes a cruel reminder that in America, even the basics can betray you. If the shelves go bare again, bread won't just vanish. It will expose just how fragile the food system is and how quickly comfort can turn into chaos. Number 2. Vegetables. When shelves go bare, vegetables are the first to vanish right after bread, and that should send shivers down anyone's spine. These aren't luxury items, they're the backbone of health, loaded with vitamins and minerals that no pill can truly replace. In normal times, supermarkets restock fresh produce daily, but the minute a crisis clogs the supply chain, that steady flow stops cold. Trucks that once carried lettuce, carrots, and broccoli from California's Central Valley or Florida fields never arrive, leaving aisles that once glowed green and vibrant looking as bleak as a desert. The panic begins instantly. Families grab bags of spinach, heads of cabbage, whatever they can clutch, not because they want to feast, but because they know these treasures will rot within days. It's a rush of desperation, and within hours, what was once ordinary produce becomes a memory. Canned and frozen vegetables offer some cushion, but even they are swept up like gold coins scattered in a crowd. History has proved it. During the early waves of the pandemic, canned green beans and frozen peas became impossible to find, with shelves stripped bare for months at a time. USDA data confirmed vegetable prices surged by more than 20% during those shortages, hitting families who could least afford the hike. And that pattern hasn't gone away. Droughts across the western United States have slashed yields of lettuce and tomatoes, forcing growers to reduce harvests by nearly 1/3 in some regions. Add to that fertilizer shortages caused by international conflict and rising energy costs, and it's a perfect storm. Vegetables become scarcer, prices skyrocket, and low-income households, the ones already deciding between paying the electric bill or filling the fridge, are left staring at empty produce bins with clenched jaws. The cruelest part is the health toll. Without vegetables, diets collapse into mountains of starches, rice, pasta, and bread. At first, it feels like survival, but quickly the consequences creep in. Fatigue, weakened immune systems, and skyrocketing blood pressure. Doctors warn that vitamin deficiencies can appear in just a few weeks without vegetables. Yet who can afford $10 lettuce? Families on Social Security checks certainly can't. Imagine being forced to choose between a sack of potatoes that will last, or a single basket of wilted greens priced like lobster. That's not a choice. It's a trap. Vegetables aren't just food. They're the body's defense line, and when they disappear, health collapses like a house of cards. And make no mistake, if deeper disruptions strike this October, as many analysts predict, fresh vegetables won't just be scarce. They'll be practically extinct from working-class tables, leaving only canned shadows of what was once a basic American meal. Number 3. Canned food. If bread is the first casualty and vegetables are the second, then canned food is the fortress that everyone scrambles to seize when the crisis bell rings. The reason is chillingly simple. It lasts for years, doesn't need refrigeration, and comes in every form of nourishment imaginable. Soups, beans, corn, tuna, chicken, pasta sauces. Each tin feels like a small insurance policy against chaos, and unlike fresh food, canned goods can be eaten straight from the container, even if the lights go out and the stove goes cold. For families with children, that practicality isn't just helpful. It's survival. During blackouts caused by hurricanes or snowstorms, whole neighborhoods have survived thanks to nothing more than stacks of canned chili or peaches, proving that in emergencies, cans are more valuable than gold. But here's the terrifying truth. Canned food always disappears faster than anyone expects. The early months of the pandemic revealed the pattern in brutal detail. Stores saw canned goods vanish within hours, with demand rising by more than 200% nationwide. Major chains like Walmart and Aldi struggled to replenish stock because supply wasn't just about food. It depended on steel for the cans, workers in factories, and trucks to move them. Once any of those links snapped, the entire system collapsed. And it's not a distant memory. Right now, the US faces rising steel prices, labor shortages in food processing plants, and shipping delays at ports that stretch for weeks. That means when panic buying strikes again, the shelves won't just empty. They'll stay empty for months. Families hoping to pick some up later will find themselves staring at aisles of bare metal racks, realizing too late that canned goods are among the hardest items to restock once they're gone. And let's not ignore the economics. When shortages strike, canned foods skyrocket in price. USDA reports show that after supply chain shocks, canned meat and vegetable products rose by over 30%. For retirees on fixed incomes and working families scraping by paycheck to paycheck, that's a brutal blow. Imagine walking into a store and seeing a can of chicken priced like a steak dinner, because that's exactly what happens when demand outstrips supply. The cruel irony is that canned food was once the cheapest, most reliable safety net, but in a crisis it becomes a luxury item, and without it, Americans are left with perishable foods that rot in days, or starch-heavy diets that wreck health over weeks. Canned food isn't just another option, it's the backbone of long-term survival. Ignoring that reality today means gambling tomorrow with hunger itself. Number 4. Bottled water. If there is one item guaranteed to spark chaos the moment a crisis hits, it is bottled water. Bread and vegetables may vanish quickly, but water is the true detonator, the fuse that sends panic roaring through the aisles. Humans can stagger through weeks without food, but no one survives more than a handful of days without clean drinking water. And people know this instinctively, almost in their bones. That is why every time disaster looms, from hurricanes in the south to blackouts in the Midwest to pandemic lockdowns in the cities, bottled water is the very first thing stripped from the shelves, sometimes in less than 6 hours. You can call it America's liquid gold rush. Once the fear sets in, the shelves transform from overflowing stacks of plastic jugs into barren deserts faster than you can blink. The danger becomes catastrophic when the public suspects contamination or interruptions in the tap water supply. If electricity fails, water treatment plants shut down, leaving whatever drips from the faucet unsafe or poisoned. History has shown this vividly. In multiple U.S. cities, contaminated water supplies once sickened thousands, sending terrified families running to stores only to find nothing left. The panic spreads like wildfire, especially among households with children and elderly relatives, where hydration is a life or death necessity. Within hours, shoppers don't just buy one case. They hoard dozens, stacking them in garages, closets, and basements like fortresses against thirst. Waiting even a single day means staring at rows of bare metal racks, realizing too late that without water, nothing else matters. What makes bottled water even more shocking is how quickly it transforms from necessity into currency. In long-term crises, people have been willing to trade food, gas, or even medicine for a few bottles of water. It becomes liquid money, more valuable than cash itself. During the aftermath of hurricanes, families reported paying triple for a single case of water, while some gas stations openly rationed bottles as if they were diamonds. For retirees on Social Security and working families scraping by, that kind of price gouging isn't just unfair. It's devastating. Experts warn repeatedly, those who prepare now will have peace of mind, while those who wait will be left desperate, parched, and betrayed by shelves that once seemed dependable. Bottled water doesn't just vanish in a crisis. It evaporates hope itself. And in the coming storms, that makes it the most dangerous loss of all. Number 5. Coffee. Call it America's morning fuel. Call it sanity in a cup. Coffee is far more than a drink, and that is exactly why it vanishes in a flash whenever crisis strikes. The moment panic hits, shelves of instant coffee are stripped as quickly as bottled water, because in times of chaos, caffeine isn't luxury. It's survival. For millions, coffee is the one ritual that stitches the day together, the spark that pries open heavy eyes, and the comfort that reminds people of normal life even when the world outside is crumbling. When fear is rising and stress keeps sleep away, caffeine becomes as essential as bread or water. Families know this, and that is why they don't hesitate to snatch every jar of instant coffee they can find, knowing it will outlast beans or grounds that go stale within weeks. Instant coffee is like bottled energy in powdered form, a weapon against exhaustion when you need it most. The truth is, coffee demand doesn't just spike during crises. It explodes. In the first months of the pandemic, industry data showed coffee sales surging by more than 30%, with instant coffee leading the race because of its shelf life and convenience. And now, the situation is even more fragile. Global coffee production has been hammered by climate shocks. Prolonged droughts in Brazil, frost damage in South America, and political unrest in Africa, all cutting yields. The International Coffee Organization recently reported global prices rising by nearly 50% in just 2 years. That means the moment panic shopping kicks in, shelves won't just empty. They'll stay empty because restocking requires international shipments that may not arrive for weeks or months. And when those shelves are bare, it won't just be hipsters crying over cappuccinos. It will be working-class Americans and retirees, stripped of the one affordable comfort they rely on daily. But here's the part no one likes to admit. Coffee isn't just about comfort, it's about survival in the literal sense. In disasters, people often face sleepless nights, whether from blaring generators, the stress of keeping watch, or the sheer anxiety of not knowing what tomorrow will bring. Caffeine becomes a tool, helping people stay awake to guard their homes, care for loved ones, and make sharp decisions when mistakes can be deadly. Imagine standing in a Walmart at midnight after a hurricane alert, staring at the empty shelf where coffee jars used to sit, realizing you will soon face days of chaos with nothing to keep you awake but fear itself. That is why instant coffee is never just a drink. It is stability, energy, and a piece of humanity in powdered form. And once the shelves are bare, its absence will feel like a cruel joke at the worst possible time. Number 6. Nuts. If bottled water is liquid gold in a crisis, then nuts are solid gold packed into handfuls, and just as quickly hoarded when shelves start to empty. People often overlook them until it's too late, but once panic spreads, nuts vanish almost instantly. Why? Because they are small, portable powerhouses loaded with protein, healthy fats, and concentrated calories. A single handful can keep you going for hours, something no bag of chips or candy bar can match. In survival terms, nuts are like compact fuel rods, dense, efficient, and easy to carry. That makes them indispensable for families forced to ration meals or for anyone facing days of limited food supply. Their long shelf life only adds to their appeal. Unlike fresh meat or vegetables that spoil in days, nuts can be stored for months, even years if sealed properly. It's no wonder survival experts consistently rank them as one of the top fuel foods when preparing for emergencies. But here's the catch. When shortages strike, nuts are among the first to vanish. During the pandemic, retail data showed sales of packaged nuts jumping by more than 40%, with trail mixes and almonds leading the charge. Drought in California, which produces more than 80% of the world's almonds, has already slashed harvests, while rising global demand has pushed prices sky high. The result? Nuts that once filled bulk bins at Costco or Walmart for a modest price now carry price tags that feel more like jewelry than groceries. For working-class families and retirees trying to stretch Social Security checks, paying $15 for a small bag of pistachios feels like legalized theft. And yet, the shelves still clear because everyone knows the value of portable, non-perishable energy when crisis hits. Beyond the nutrition, nuts carry a psychological weight. They're tied to comfort snacks, trail mixes on family road trips, or simple handfuls grabbed to fight off hunger between meals. In stressful times, that small taste of normalcy matters. Imagine walking into a store during a blackout or after a natural disaster and finding the nut aisle stripped bare. The sight is more than disappointing. It's a gut punch, a reminder that what once seemed like a simple snack has turned into survival gold. When shelves are empty, nuts won't just be food. They'll be currency, traded and guarded like treasures, and those who fail to secure them early will be left with nothing but regret, staring at empty bins where peanuts and almonds once promised strength. Number 7. Rice. If there is one food that unites humanity in both feast and famine, it is rice, and that is exactly why it disappears faster than almost anything else once panic shopping begins. Rice is cheap, calorie-dense, and nearly immortal in storage, lasting for years if sealed properly. A single 20-pound bag can stretch across weeks, feeding an entire family when other options run dry. That makes it the ultimate survival staple, not just in Asia or Africa, but right here in America, where families instinctively grab it the moment the shelves start to look thin. During the early waves of the pandemic, US retailers reported that rice sales jumped by more than 70%, and entire aisles were left barren in less than a day. Unlike bread, which spoils quickly, or vegetables, which wilt in days, rice sits in your pantry like a faithful guard dog, silent, dependable, and ready when hunger bites. But that loyalty comes at a cost, because rice supplies are under siege. Global production is shrinking under the weight of climate chaos. Severe droughts in India and Southeast Asia have slashed harvests, while flooding in Pakistan wiped out millions of acres of paddies. The United Nations warned recently that worldwide rice reserves are at their lowest levels in decades. Even closer to home, farmers in Arkansas and Louisiana, two of America's biggest rice states, have reported rising costs for irrigation and fertilizer, forcing many to cut back on planting. The result is inevitable. Prices climb like a runaway elevator. In just the past year, global rice prices surged by more than 30%, and that was before another round of extreme weather hits. For low-income families and retirees on fixed incomes, that means rice. The food they once bought in bulk to make ends meet could soon carry price tags that feel more like luxury steak. The danger is not just financial, but existential. Rice is one of the few foods that can anchor a diet when everything else collapses. Mixed with beans, canned vegetables, or a handful of nuts, it can form complete meals that stave off malnutrition. Without it, people are left scrambling for starches that don't last as long and don't fill bellies as deeply. Imagine walking into Walmart or Costco, staring at pallets where 20-pound bags of rice once towered, and seeing nothing but empty wooden skids. That emptiness is more than a supply problem. It's a psychological blow, a reminder that the backbone of the world's diet can vanish overnight. And when that happens, those who prepared will eat. Those who didn't will be left clutching at whatever scraps are left. Rice isn't just food, it's civilization in a sack, and when crisis deepens, losing it means losing stability itself. Number 8. Pasta. When panic buying erupts, pasta doesn't just vanish, it gets wiped out like a tornado ripping through a wheat field. The reason is brutally clear. It's cheap, lightweight, and requires almost no effort to turn into a full meal. For families staring at chaos, a simple pot of boiling water and a box of pasta can transform into dinner for the entire household. That is why, every single time fear spreads, pasta is one of the first victims of the stampede. It isn't just food, it's a psychological anchor. Parents know their kids will eat it without complaint, and in a crisis, having one meal that doesn't spark a fight at the table feels like gold. Whether it's macaroni, spaghetti, or penne, pasta becomes the comfort food that also happens to be survival food. The value of pasta stretches beyond taste. It is one of the most versatile staples on the planet, pairing with canned sauces, frozen vegetables, or even just oil and salt. That adaptability makes it a must-have when grocery options dry up. But here's the reality. Global supply chains are already trembling. Italy, the world's pasta capital, faced wheat shortages after poor harvests, while Canada, another top wheat supplier, reported declines due to extreme drought. On top of that, shipping costs and fuel hikes drive up prices before the product even reaches your cart. Analysts have warned that durum wheat, the key ingredient in pasta, is at its lowest stockpile levels in decades. That means when the next round of panic sets in, shelves won't just empty for a few days. They could stay barren for weeks. The economic bite makes the picture even darker. Not long ago, a family could buy pasta for pennies per portion. Now prices in some regions have climbed by more than 20% in a single year, and projections suggest further spikes as shortages deepen. For retirees depending on fixed Social Security checks, or for working families juggling bills, even that small price increase feels like a sucker punch. Imagine walking into Aldi or Walmart, expecting to grab a box of spaghetti for dinner, only to find nothing but empty shelves and a sign apologizing for supply delays. The sense of betrayal is crushing because pasta was supposed to be the cheap, dependable staple, the food you could always count on. When it disappears, it isn't just an inconvenience. It's a loud, mocking reminder that even the simplest comfort foods can become luxuries overnight. Pasta, the humble backbone of family dinners, could soon turn into one of the hardest foods to find, and by then, those who fail to stock up will realize they've lost not just a meal, but a piece of everyday stability. Number 9. Peanut butter. Peanut butter may look like a simple spread, but in a crisis it becomes survival gold. Loaded with protein, fats, and calories, just one spoonful can fuel hours of energy. It requires no cooking, no refrigeration, and can be eaten straight from the jar, spread on crackers, or paired with fruit, making it one of the most practical foods you can store. That's why once panic begins, peanut butter is among the first products to vanish. Families know kids will eat it without complaint, and adults see it as both comfort and fuel. History already proved the pattern. During the pandemic, peanut butter sales soared by over 70%, and shelves at Walmart and Costco were stripped bare within hours. Its long shelf life and dense nutrition make it indispensable, yet supply struggles are worsening. Droughts in southern states and rising production costs have cut yields, with Georgia losing nearly a quarter of its peanut crop in recent years. Prices have already climbed nearly 20%, hitting hardest for working families and retirees on fixed incomes. Standing before empty shelves at Aldi, many will realize too late, peanut butter isn't just food, it's essential survival packed into a jar. Number 10. Jam. Jam may not look like survival food, but history shows it vanishes fast once panic sets in. It isn't just sweetness. It's comfort sealed in glass. With a shelf life that lasts months or years without refrigeration, jam becomes the perfect fallback when fresh fruit is gone. In stressful times, when every meal feels like a ration, spreading jam on bread or crackers turns bland food into something bearable. Birch dorfdies waar burn is die earth. Even joyful. That psychological boost isn't luxury, it's medicine. Families with children know it well. Jam guarantees kids will eat without protest, offering parents a moment of peace in chaos. Jam also delivers sugar, a quick source of energy when stress is high and sleep is broken. During lockdown, sales jumped by over 40% and shelves were cleared within hours. Today, extreme weather is crushing fruit harvests worldwide. Frost in Europe, drought across US orchards, pushing raw fruit prices up and turning jam into a near-luxury item. Imagine walking into Aldi or Walmart and seeing only sticky, empty shelves, with doubled prices on the few jars left. When fruit disappears, jam steps in as the substitute. It bridges the gap between nutrition and morale. In crisis, every jar becomes survival gold. When food security collapses, awareness is power. Subscribe now to stay informed, prepared, and never blindsided again.
Thank you for watching today's video all the way through. If you found the content helpful, don't forget to click like and subscribe to stay updated to our latest daily videos. Now feel free to check out other feature videos currently shown on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.